Told our team very rarely in this league, especially with our mindset towards playing complementary football in all three phases, to win the turnover battle 2-0 and not have a little bit better chance to win it in the end. We got it to one score there, just couldn't get that last stop. Tried calling some timeouts and see if maybe we can get one more drive for Jaron. Would have loved to see him in that kind of end of game 2-minute drive, but just didn't come together. Would have too much, really some sloppy things that we totally were in our control in the first half offensively. Had some opportunities to maybe finish those drives with touchdowns, and we just did not do it. And then when we weren't able to get drives going, most of the time penalties, struck again. And I know a lot of these guys aren't getting a ton of reps that are playing in these football games, but still would like to believe that we can play clean football and just simply execute the play called without penalties or mental errors, and we've got to continue to work through that with the group that was out there tonight. I know we sat a few more guys this week than we did last week, mainly just because of the reps we had Wednesday, Thursday with our first groups and the substitutions amongst those first groups, and very much looking forward to this week with the Arizona Cardinals coming to town. It's going to be hot. We're planning on just a little bit more work during the practices, rep-wise, as part of our build towards the season. So it's going to be a big-time challenge for our guys. Just a couple injury updates for you. Najee Thompson, started to develop some symptoms there, concussion symptoms, after making that real strong play there on special teams. So he'll be somebody to monitor. We'll more than likely he's in the protocol here for the short term, and we'll allow him to go through that process. Theo Jackson, AC, with his shoulder, was able to return, which is, great to see. And then Tay had a little bit of a shoulder as well. N'Keal Harry was the only player that we planned on having that had a little bit of a soft tissue kind of aggravation in warm-ups, and we wanted to be smart with him, instead of trying to make him push through it. But that was unfortunate. Wanted to see him tonight.
Evaluate each of your quarterbacks tonight?
I thought Nick really, for the most part, did a lot of the same things moving the team he did at Seattle. I thought there was I think back to that first drive, there was a couple chances there. If we're just a hair more accurate, we probably get the third down conversion, and then we're in plus territory, rolling hopefully down into the red zone and trying to score a touchdown. But he runs the team incredibly efficient. His communication, his ownership of our offense. He is an accurate quarterback. That's one of the reasons why he's here. So I don't worry for a second about Nick. But there was just a couple high misses here and there that, whether it was technique or he was dealing with some push and some rush at times. And then we didn't do much to run the football early on in the game to help him all that much. But yet, just like he did last week, he was able to move the team and at least generate some points there. Jaron, really how it kind of came down rep-wise, I wouldn't have minded getting him in a little bit earlier, but wanted to let that group continue to try to sustain there towards the end of the second quarter. He came in and was good to see him, engineer that touchdown drive, use his legs to steal a third down conversion, and then we were able to punch it in. Some decent run game there late with that third, fourth group kind of mixing in there, some new guys. So, but I thought overall the quarterbacks, for where we're at right now, I think we can continue to do things to help those guys, but we're also putting them in some situations to see how they respond and handle it. And I thought for the most part both guys did some good things tonight.
Kevin, how would you size up the punt return competition and also that 4, 5, 6 receiver competition?
Yeah, it's been particularly that receiver room without Jalen Naylor getting very many reps since day one. It's really allowed more guys to compete in that first huddle outside of JJ, KJ, and really Jordan. Then you start to look at Jalen Reagor. Brandon Powell's had an excellent training camp, doing so many things that I don't think people realize sometimes, just all the different jobs he can do. Jalen Reagor's speed, we tried to get him over the top a couple times tonight, kind of either pocket didn't allow it or the coverage didn't, but his speed is a real factor. When I think about just the depth of getting Tristan back from that kind of near kind of near scare we had, and getting him back and getting all these snaps for him. I think that group is going to be very tough for us to figure out whether it's 5 or 6 or ultimately what the depth looks like on the practice squad, because there's probably 4 or 5 names that are all deserving. And these are good problems to have, but trying to figure out how it will all fit. Knowing we should get Jordan back this week will be huge for us. And KJ and Justin have been getting their work throughout. But I would love to get Jalen Naylor some work here at some point if we can. But he's a player that I think very highly of, and just want to continue to see how that whole group, especially on the back end, fits with how we want to play with multiple personnel groupings and trying to commit to building our run game up.
Kevin, they had obviously a number of big runs there, especially a couple in the second half. Yeah. Were those run fit issues or tackling or a combination of things?
I would say, just in some of the discussion on the sideline with Flo, I think it was probably a little bit of both. I know a couple of the longer runs. I think we missed a tackle on one, kind of had a chance to get him in the hole there for a 4 or 5 yard gain, and that long one in the first half was more of that. But listen, I think if we were playing our normal calls and there's some of these looks, these runs aren't getting off, maybe we're talking them out of some of these things, but we're trying to give these guys enough of an opportunity, enough of a plan to compete, but also our mindset is on September 10th. So, and much beyond, a short week right after that, and then on into what's out in front of us. So we're asking our guys to play differently than they do every single day, and I think that's okay in the evaluation process, really on offense and defense, for that matter.
You talked about that a little bit last week with Andrew Booth too, I think playing in straight man coverage. Is that kind of by design on a lot of levels? I know you don't want to show much of the game plan, but does that simplifying things allow you to kind of evaluate in a controlled environment a little more?
Yeah, we have to be able to see guys in certain aspects that they're going to need to show what they're capable of doing at this point. Whether it's a rookie, a second-year player, a veteran player, we need to know what we have. So when we actually start game planning for opponents, we can build the best plans for our players, because that's ultimately what my number one goal is when I meet with the staff each and every week of the season, is how do we do our part to make sure we give these guys a good chance to have success by schematically what we're asking them to do, and then are we teaching them the techniques and fundamentals to go do that. So I think it's a great point, but I still would like to see our team able to come out in these preseason games and compete to get victories as well, no matter who's in the game. It really that doesn't matter. We're always trying to come out and win football games.
Did you give play calling to someone else in the second half?
Yeah, Wes is called. He's. I called. I called some of their early, first half stuff, and then trying to get him some reps and thinking about trying to get creative with the game next weekend. It was something that, whether it was Sean or Jay Gruden, some of my early times getting reps calling plays was during the preseason, and I just think it's a really good thing for me to sit back and kind of evaluate our whole team sometimes, especially as some of the guys down the line on the roster. I want to have a great feel for them. I want to be able to watch things closely in all 3 phases, and that helps me do that. I thought Wes, on that touchdown drive, called a great drive, and the guys executed, and there was really no, delay games or pre-snap penalties or anything. So the function, that was really calling it from the box down, and we're always looking at things from a standpoint of helping people, not just players, but players and coaches develop.
What would the creative thing be next week?
I don't know. Wes has, got a chance to call a few. I'll probably let him call a few next week, and maybe some of our other coaches as well. And Flo's kind of done some similar things on the defensive side, especially in the second halves as well.
Do you have any interest in getting any starters anytime, like next week?
Yeah, I'm thinking about, from the standpoint of when I count the reps for the ones from this past Wednesday and Thursday, and then knowing what it's going to be like Wednesday and Thursday with the heat, and my plan is to keep the rep count the same as planned, which is more than last week. Those guys are going to get plenty of work. As the standard rule goes, I think you saw it with one of their players tonight that might not have played had he not been kicked out of practice. So that's a standing rule we have. So I don't know if Coach Vrabes has had that rule throughout, or he just, in our dialogue, decided to apply that one. But I think the point of it all is we've spent a lot of time planning training camp, these joint practices, and I know these games are genuine opportunities for game situations to come up, but as you guys that were at the joint practices, we hit just about every situation possible in 2 days and had ultra competitiveness out there almost right to that line. Give those guys a lot of credit over there for being able to have 2 days of work without it getting out of hand.
Kevin, how was